What's going on, guys? It's your boy Anthony alongside the best Big Three account in the universe, Big3 News, aka Will, back with another edition of the Fourth Man, and we are coming off week 4, the Big3 Ballout. We got an exciting episode for you coming up. We're going to recap everything that happened at the Ballout. We saw NLE Chopper there. I mean, they're getting some big names, seems like week in and week out. Some exciting games. Couple of blowouts, which was a little bit unexpected, but nonetheless, some teams are kind of making a name for themselves and making their mark. But we're going to get into all of that. First and foremost, Will, my guy, what's good, man? You've been busy.
Yeah, dude, I've been super busy. Like you said, you got NLE Choppa this week. We have G Herbo in Chicago.
Crazy.
So, they're getting guys to contest. So it's definitely exciting. But, I agree with you, man. I feel like as close and as competitive as last week as week 3 was, I feel like week 4 was like a tone-setting week. Like, I feel like, I feel like we have a much better picture of who's actually contending and who isn't after this week. It's only going to continue getting clearer. 8 out of the 12 teams are above 500. So really anything can happen. But I just feel like every win this week, besides maybe the tri-state win, I feel like it was a statement. I feel like it was like the top of the league beating up on the bottom of the league.
Yeah, and we get just quick shout out to Bivouac because they played their best game. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but I was pretty impressed by them and the the severity, I feel like, of their roster that they faced.
Oh my God,
last minute.
Didn't have a number.
Yeah, he didn't have a last name.
He was
just rocking number 1. So we'll talk about them a little bit later. But appreciate everyone who's tuning in. Before we get into the show, as always, if you want to find the socials, at Fourth Man Pod, at Big3 News, at @A_Siggy. You can find all your Big3 news there and on the at Fourth Man Pod social, updating pretty much every game throughout Saturday. This week it'll be Thursday and Saturday, so we got a lot of games to touch on. If you want to watch the show rather than listen to the show, youtube.com/fourthmanpod. And for everyone who tunes in every Saturday on Dash Radio and the Nothing But Net channel, we appreciate you guys, whether you're tuning in for the first time or you've been listening throughout the season. We truly appreciate it. Hey, and this week, you'll actually get a little bit of an update of what's going on if you are tuned into the socials, and you'll kind of know what happened on Thursdays before listening on Saturday. So
that's
a little bit of an advantage for having – this is the first time, I think, in Big3 history that we've had 2 games in 1 week. So
oh, yeah, and 2 games in 3 days. It's not even like 2 games in a week. It's literally almost like back-to-backs. It's like an NBA schedule for a week, yeah.
That's pretty crazy, which – is usually what everybody hates, but we'll see how everybody adjusts to it. They do only play to 50. It is half court, so might be a slightly easier adjustment. But hey, some of these guys are a little bit older.
That's the vibe. I mean, yeah, the vibe from everybody is basically it's half court to 50.
Yeah,
which we said, when we talked around, it's gonna be bubbles, it's gonna be like a tournament. I get the idea that they're older and there's more of a risk of injury for sure.
These guys are pro athletes.
We have to get to a point where you're pro athletes. Half of you are playing in the Drew League anyway. So,
or we're playing in the TBT. You guys are fine.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Come on. We're fine.
All right, let's get into the ball out. Like I said, great episode. We're going to recap the ball out, and we're going to give our midseason awards, and then we'll have an interview on the back end of a guy who just made his Big 3 debut, and pretty exhilarating one. But let's get into the ball out first. We'll get into these matchups. We had 6 games go on. A couple of interesting matchups. I think when you look at the week, you go into it, and obviously there's probably 3 main questions you're wondering. What happens between ball hogs and ghost ballers? I think, like you said, kind of set the tone. Who was going to be the one to set that tone and make a statement within the league? Killer threes and power. Is it more like power's on the way up, or killer threes on the way up? Excuse me, and power's just kind of coasting, or is it opposite? Is power finding their groove? They were obviously without Katina Mobley. And I think the third main question, the question we ask every week, can anybody knock off triplets? This week, enemies had that task. But let's start with the first game, Ghost Ballers and Ball Hogs. This is a game that Mike Taylor just got off to a hot start, and it seemed like everybody around Ghost Ballers kind of fed off that energy, kept it going. They were pretty consistently leading by 15 throughout the game, ultimately winning 50-35 over Ball Hogs. A Ball Hogs team that started 2-0 and now sit at 2-2. Ghost Ballers moves to 3-1. I guess let me ask you this first, Will. Are we concerned with Ball Hogs back at 2-2?
Yeah, I think there has to be some level of concern, just because I feel like, Ball Hogs' loss has come to 2 good teams. It's come to Power and Ghost Ballers, but Ball Hogs themselves are trying to be a good team. I feel like this Ghost Ballers matchup was a great litmus test. Two teams who at the time had the same record. And I just feel like, if you're Ball Hogs, I feel like the way you've been playing, all right, you lose to Power. Fine, sure. Power has become an institution in the Big Three. Like, all right, like, it's like the NFL going and like losing, in Pittsburgh.
Right.
Fine, happens to everybody, But Ghost Ballers, that's a team that if you're looking to seriously contend for a championship, that's a team that you have to beat. I mean, Ball Hogs were fully healthy. Ghost Ballers were missing Craig Smith. I think they only had like a 4-man rotation. I don't even know if they
really a 3-man. They didn't
sub once.
Yeah.
So this to me is, it's a, you're definitely worried about Ball Hogs, but it's a statement game for Mike Taylor, who is, his voice is getting louder and louder that he believes that he is the MVP of this league. And, we talked about who's going to be Joe Johnson's rival. And we talked about, is it going to be, some guy like Dwayne Wade who comes in? Is it going to be Nick Young? Is it going to be, Barbosa the first 2 weeks we were saying? But no, at this point, I think it's Mike Taylor. And I don't think the MVP race has ever been closer than it is right now, because as much as a show Joe Johnson is putting on, Mike Taylor in a win like this, not only did he lock up Barbosa, but he, offensively, he was the best player out there on both teams.
Yeah, I think you make a great point there. I think the perfect way you put it is, Joe is a show, but Mike Taylor is putting on that same kind of excitement week in and week out, and he continues to talk a lot. He's very I guess how do I put it? Like he does talk a lot about how good. Yeah, very vocal. How good he really thinks he is, what he was able to do to kind of trailblaze his, like, for other people to get into the league. Being the first guy from the D League to the NBA that was drafted, but he backs it up with a lot of his play. And I think the question now, for me at least after watching that game, is like, wow, Ghost Ballers a legit contender for sure. But also you have to wonder, is this a team that could have been 4-0 if Mike Taylor could have kind of controlled his emotions a little bit when he felt like he was being fouled a lot within that Tri-State game and ultimately didn't get ejected. So yeah, Ghost Ballers definitely put on a show. I think you have to give a lot of credit to what they're doing. I think early on we talked about that. This is kind of the new sleeper team. This is a team where we think that at least 4 guys could put up 20 points at any given game. But Mike Taylor continuously does it week in and week out. And Barbosa did come on late. He did have a couple of 4-pointers that I think kind of padded his stats toward the end, finishing with like 20 points. But Mike Taylor really got them going. I think he had 17 in the first half, finished with 22. And what I really liked about this one is that, Chris Johnson and Mike Taylor, that first game, they looked really dominant as a duo. Felt like Chris Johnson kind of, I don't want to say relaxed, but we definitely didn't see the same type of workload over the past couple of weeks. But in the second half, he looked extremely dominant on both ends of the floor. Yeah, on both ends of the floor. I felt like he was blocking shots, making big shots, and ultimately Ghost Ballers is now 3-1. But we'll see how Ball Hogs progress. Ghost Ballers is making an addition this week in Alex Scales, who's a former Ghost Baller in 2019.
Friend of the pod, and I think someone that's going to fit in real nicely. Like, I don't think the chemistry is going to be easy because they played with them already. So, Ghost Ballers, exciting to watch, but more importantly, the MVP race is exciting. Well, I'll tell you what, I think, so we know the season, we know the schedule for this weekend, which is Thursday. They're going to be playing Trilogy, and then Saturday they're playing Power, which are obviously 2 very tough back-to-backs. So this statement is obviously, if they come out of the weekend 3-2 and they lose back-to-backs, which is possible, but, I'm assuming they'll probably win 1 out of 2, could very easily win both, but will probably win 1 out of 2. So you're looking at a 4-2 team. I still think that Ghost Ballers and triplets, which obviously the league is saving for week 7 or week 8, is gonna be,
game of the year type.
Game of the year type. The only reason why I say that is because, we saw triplets and powers, which was an incredible game, but Power has to get healthy. That Power team that we saw versus triplets doesn't exist at the moment. Coutinho isn't there, and they're bringing in Dusan and Glenn Davis, so it's going to be different. Mm-hmm. They already played Trilogy. That was a great game, but they just seemed like they were the better team with Trilogy. And I'm trying to think who else did they play. They played enemies who know, and then Bivouac, who isn't going to be in the Bahamas. So, and then we talked about, maybe Ball Hogs, but Ball Hogs, Ball Hogs have some other issues to work out before we talk about, their matchup versus triplets.
Yeah.
So to me,
well, they got Trilogy coming up, and then they have Tri-State on Saturday. So a couple of teams that are 3-1.
So to me, Ghost Ballers, that's this is the team right now they're looking out for. And if Mike Taylor wants to, seriously be the front runner for MVP that he believes that he is, you got to go out there and you have to beat Joe Johnson.
I think so too. I think you're 100% right, because as great as Mike has been, Joe literally, it looks like he just picked up where he left off. He set a single game record already this year.
Yeah.
He was almost averaging 30 coming into week 4, and after 3 games.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was 29 points per game. So it's going to be tough to beat. I'm not saying that Mike hasn't done good, but Mike got ejected from a game, so he didn't get to finish off that one. He talked about you talked to him recently, and he said that he didn't get to shoot those free throws, and the momentum kind of shifted. But at the end of the day, people not only look at wins for an MVP race, you have to look at how you're doing week in and week out. And I think a lot of people, what they look at as metrics is the stats. And
yeah, well, here's the thing, right? Like Joe Johnson has, number one, he's the team success, which has been the number one key for a Big 3.
10-1 in the Big 3 in his Big 3 career.
So you have the team success, and Joe Johnson's a better offensive player.
Maybe 11-1.
If you were making the case for Mike Taylor, you would say Mike Taylor's a better defender. And, I guess that's really the main thing. So he's better on the other side of the floor than Joe Johnson. Definitely, for sure. Like Mike Taylor is probably a legitimate defensive player of the year candidate. So, but, historically we've just seen, and, this is the same in the NBA and everything. You're going to value better offense over better defense.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
That's just how it is.
Yeah, no, I agree. And for, last thing on Ball Hogs, I do think this is kind of make or break for them. At the very least, at the minimum, they have to go 1-1.
Have to.
The next 2 games.
You have to at least tread water.
Exactly. I don't think you can lose 4 in a row and be 2-4 and hope for the best down the stretch and win the last 2 games. You have to at least come out of here 3-3. But it's another statement, you didn't get it done against Ghost Ballers. You have 2 more games coming up where you can continue to make that statement that this is not the same Ball Hogs team, which we, in a sense, it's already not, because they've already won 2 games and they've been at 2-0 and accomplished a lot more than past years. But in order to at least be fighting for a playoff spot, got to come out of here 1-1, and it's going to be a tall test. So we'll see. Let's move on to our second game, which was Power and Killer 3s, a game where, for me personally, I thought this was game of the week. This is 2 teams that saw each other in the playoffs last year. Killer 3s beat them. You talk about Power kind of being the institution of the Big 3 in a sense. They were missing Katino Mobley though, and we knew that was going to be tough to just go into any game without your leader. They did add Dusan Bullet. I think we've been saying his name wrong for a couple of years now. Dusan Bullet.
Well, I was also told that the little the S in his name is pronounced sh. So it's Dushan.
Dushan Bullet. Interesting.
But on the broadcast, they were calling him Dusan.
Yeah.
And they were kind of switching back and forth between Balut and Bullet.
Yeah, I heard that too.
So I don't know.
At this point, we probably just need to have him on to try to clarify that.
What is your name?
First and foremost, happy to have you on. What's your name?
Yeah.
How do you say it?
Say your name for us.
So they add Bullet, they add Balut. And honestly, he got a lot of playing time. This was an interesting game because Killer 3s, they obviously got off to that slow start, but Power just seems like they can't ever get healthy. We've been talking about the injury woes for Power for 2 seasons now, and it seems to continue in that game. We saw Joe Alexander. It looked like I kind of showed you a video earlier in the week where he took a hit. We didn't really see much of him. He's been one of their go-to guys, but we didn't really see much of him. But we also saw a lot of Balut playing within the game. Trying to get acclimated. It seemed like he had a tough time fighting through screens, trying to deal with the
physicality
physicality of the league. And
he also had 9 points.
He also had 9 points. I think there were a lot of things he did well as a distributor and a guy who was kind of running the offense. I think he did really well. Ultimately, I felt like it just kind of came down to spacing. You know, you had to go to Royce. You went to Royce a lot. And
they did go to Royce a lot.
And I don't know if, like for Royce, I look at him more as that guy that's going to kind of run your offense as well, like be that distributor, be that playmaker where you're going to score when you need to, but also do things off the ball a little bit more. But you know, Power was kind of cold in the second half, and I felt like Killer 3 kind of just laid it on throughout the game. You know, Power did have the early lead, but I think that Killer 3's honestly looked like the better team throughout. Dante Green had another really good game. CJ Watson was great off the bench. This is when Killer 3's at its best, I feel like, is when CJ Watson's doing his thing, and he looked really good in this one. He was serving up buckets.
We're finally seeing the team that made the championship last
season.
This is the team.
And I don't want to say I was concerned, but I definitely was looking at least our Bahamas team and thinking, man, we picked Killer 3s, we picked Bivouac. They're both sitting at 0-2. I picked enemies, and so 3 of my teams were sitting at 0-2 already. But this is a Killer 3. This is why we expected them to be a Bahamas team, because of this team right here. Mo Charlo, we talked about him last week, looks like one of the better defenders. Ultimately, Killer 3s are now even at 2-2, back at 500 after a 50-41 win over Power. I think this is kind of a statement win as well. I know that Power was missing Katina Mobley, but anytime you can beat Power, I think it's a statement win. What do we think of? I guess what do we think of chances for both these teams moving forward? Now sitting at 2-2, kind of middle in the pack.
I mean, this is very interesting because these are two teams that I could very well, both see make the Bahamas, but there's 4 3-1 teams in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I hate to, say that, like, for Power, this is a season altering loss, but depending on how it shakes out, it kind of is, because, Tri-State, Three-Headed Monsters, Ghost Ballers, and Trilogy, one of those three, and there is one team in there that is going to start 3-1 and not make the playoffs. We don't know who it is yet, but so it's going to be them. So if you're 2-2, you have to hope that 2 of those teams collapse.
Well, the good thing is they play Tri-State this week.
Yeah.
So that's one team that you can at least knock down.
That's a team that, Power, if any team out of those 4, that's a team that you got to beat.
I think another thing that's going for them is that triplets play Three-Headed Monsters. Three-Headed Monsters definitely could come up with an upset, but you like those odds as
that's
a team
true. That's
watching.
True. You definitely have you have a lot. There's definitely a second half of the season to be played. I just Power. You almost feel like you can't afford another loss.
Yeah, and you really can't afford another injury at this point.
It doesn't look like any. 5-3. If you're a 5-3 team, it looks like at this point in the season you're gonna be, pushing for that 4th seed.
I kind of look at it like this. Let's say that you're drowning in water, like you have a weight around your ankle. You can only swim up for so long, and I feel like for a couple of years, Power's been swimming, and they're breathing, they're hanging in there. But after so long, like, can you really afford another injury at this point?
I know it's finally starting to catch up with them for sure.
That's what I'm thinking too. I'm not going to doubt Power. I definitely think this is a team that could win 4 in a row. We don't know how the rest of the schedule is going to shake out, because that's kind of the twist the Big 3's added this year. But that was a tough loss, and to lose by 9 after being up at half, just you're still trying to get some of those guys acclimated and get the chemistry on point. You're missing Katina Mobley. I don't know. We'll have to see how Power does. I think this is going to be an important game for them Thursday. And Killer 3s, I'm excited moving forward. I mean, their next couple games, they got Bivouac, who, while they played a great game against Three-Headed Monsters with a depleted team, still 0-4. And then Killer 3s is going to get a rematch against Triplets week 6. So, again, another chance for a team to make a statement and climb their way
Killer
back
3
up.
is getting a rematch with Triplets? Oh, you mean the championship?
Saturday.
A championship rematch. Sorry, I was like, did they play already?
No, so they haven't played. They haven't never played each other in the regular season, which is pretty interesting.
Really, that is interesting.
So that'll be interesting. But you're happy for Killer 3s being back at 2-2, and I think what you got to be happiest about the most is that because CJ Watson was so hot, really didn't need to have Frank play. He's been playing in 2 leagues already, so for him to be able to get that rest and be ready to go for the long weekend, or I guess the long week, you're feeling good about that.
Well, we talked about, and like last thing on Killer Threes Week, we talk about, who's going to replace Steven Jackson, because it's always been Steven Jackson and then someone, always like a CJ Watson or, anybody steps up. And so far it's been Dante Green.
Yeah.
So if Dante Green's going to play like that and CJ Watson's going to have that game, Killer Threes, in my opinion, can beat anybody.
Dante's another guy. Would you consider Dante Green to be in the MVP conversation?
Oh, definitely.
I think so too. One last thing. So I was just so ecstatic to see Dusan play this week. It's been a long time coming. I think there's definitely going to be a little bit of an adjustment period, but the man just got back from Tokyo. Who knows if he was like suffering from jet lag, if anything, and coming off a bunch of games. I mean, there's a bunch of circumstances for him to not play in this game and for him to put up nine points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and play the entirety of the game almost. It's encouraging. So
all things considered, he played fantastic, and it's so good for him he's so, and you hear him speak, he's so happy to be in the Big Three, and he's not like, like I'm just doing this, to play more, to waste of time. No, he's like, I am here because I consider myself the greatest 3v3 player in the world, but I'm here to prove myself,
Exactly. He wants to be the undisputed champ, so I think he'll come back better than ever.
Exactly. So, all things considered, he played good. It's going to take an adjustment, like you said. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited.
Exactly. Let's move on to the triplets enemies matchup. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this one because it's kind of
quick.
We kind of echo the same sentiment every week. Look, hey, enemies played a great second half. Can't go down 26-9 or whatever the halftime score was and hope to come back against Joe Johnson and triplets. Just can't. It can't happen. Was it 26-9?
It was something. It might have been.
It was 26-9 at halftime. Enemies outscored them in the second half. I think they had a lot to do.
Dropped 30 in the second half.
Okay, but 12 of those points came from 4 balls, 2 from Perry Jones, 1 from Nick Young late. No, I'm not saying it's not impressive. It just feels like for enemies, it's just not coming together how you hope for. Isaiah Austin looked great week 1. Been kind of quiet the past few weeks. Elijah Stewart looks like their best player, but he's either playing one half or the second half, or he's playing in spurts, which is kind of weird. But he looks great. But I don't know if he can do it alone. Feels like he needs help. Nick Young has struggled shooting outside of the one game against Bivouac, which the record kind of speaks for themselves. And on the flip side, it's just Joe Johnson doing Joe Johnson things. He's been doing this since he came into the league day 1. They threw a lot of different looks at him. They threw Perry Jones to start, threw Isaiah Austin a little bit more length at him. I mean, that if anything, I feel like that was going to be a tough matchup for Joe, and he made it look easy. He puts in the work.
They had no answer for him.
He puts in the work. It seems like he can retaliate with any move, come back with any move, regardless of how you defend him. If you're doubling him, he's making the right pass. So Triplet's just the best team. And until someone really gets them fits, there's not really much more to say. I mean, the only thing we're going to say is that this upcoming week on Thursday and on Saturday, they get 3-headed monsters, the 3-1 team, and then they get Killer Threes, a tough 2-2 team. So we'll see if one of those guys can maybe knock them off. But right now it's tough. It's no one's been able to
good for the rest of the league, dude.
Yeah, exactly. And if any team was going to do it, we were hoping for Power, we were hoping for Trilogy, and they can do it. So we'll see. It's just kind of a wait and see at this moment for enemies. You don't want to say they're out of it because there is 4 more games to play. They very well could be 5-3, but they do get aliens. They get 3-headed monsters on Saturday. So very well, if they win those 2 games, there's a chance. But
it's funny because these last 2 weeks to me have seen like the break, because they threw like the best teams at them for the first 3 weeks.
They did get the gauntlet to start.
That's what I mean. Like now you can get enemies and aliens.
Yeah.
Like they're usually like the first 3 games. Now they're game 6. This to me, like, no offense to aliens, but this to me is like the
get the easy part of the schedule at this point.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. By the way, Elijah Stewart's looked great. If youth has definitely made this thing interesting, and he's one of the biggest reasons why, I think, coming into the year. So
yeah.
we'll see how they continue to move. I think if for anything, if you want to win for enemies, and obviously those guys know a lot more than me. Gil's a great basketball mind, but in my personal opinion, this team goes when Elijah Stewart's leading the helm and his sidekick is Isaiah Austin or vice versa, flip flop, whatever the case may be. Yeah. That's just the best version of enemies we've seen.
There's really no like distributor on this team. There's no like floor general, you know.
I also want to say enemies in their 2 years just doesn't feel like they're getting the right captain. Doesn't feel like they're getting the right guy to kind of.
Well, Gil got hurt, so like I understand.
Sure. Yeah.
But no, you're right. Listen, you're 100% right, and you can't really say it's been the people around him because Royce has looked great. Craig Smith looked good. You know,
Perry Jones has been good, I think. And
Perry Jones has been good. Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know, man. It's kind of like our enemies, the new ball hogs.
Don't say that. Okay, we're moving on before we start name calling enemies into ball hogs, man. Okay, let's move on to arguably the best game of the day in Tri-State and Three's company. This was an interesting one because we saw a lot of guys making their debuts. Obviously, Jason Richardson and Larry Sanders were out due to COVID protocols, as well as Jeremy Pargo. So we're missing the two leading scorers for both teams. But we saw the return of David Hawkins, which is super exciting. We even saw him, he had the same haircut when he was rocking with Three's company in year one.
I was going to say that. It looked like 2017. He was rocking like the shaved head. And it was headband, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Did he do this on purpose?
We went back in time and just grabbed that David Hawkins.
Exactly. That's what it kind of looked like too.
So that was super cool. And then on the flip side, we saw Tri-State running with a 4-man roster, and what I thought was going to hurt them was going to be the size differentiator. They had Nate Robinson, Justin Dentmon, and Tony Roten, guys who were a little bit on the shorter side, with Earl Clark being their big. And honestly, Tri-State looked really good. They were also without Dr. J, but the ball movement was on point. They out-rebounded and out-hustled a pretty big Three's company team. I know they were also missing Ryan Hollins as well, but they had Arinze Onuwaku, who made his debut. Still have DeMar Johnson, he's a big guy, Drew Gooden, and Tri-State did a good job on the boards. Mario Chalmers went off, but the debut of Justin Dentmon and Nate Robinson's best game was enough to prevail them to a 50-45 win. Tri-State's now 3-1, and Three's company is 1-3. I mean, what do we think of Tri-State? This is probably the best time to ask the pretender or contender question that we asked in week one, because they seem to get it done week in and week out despite what you throw at them, despite the circumstances.
That is true, and this is a team that because you look at the other 3-1 teams, you're like Trilogy. Trilogy's a good team. You know what I mean? Like that's
a really good team.
Ghost Ballers, they're really playing high energy, chip on their shoulders. Who's the other? In Three-Headed Monsters is 3-1, right?
Monsters.
And you're like Three-Headed Monsters. Those are a group of guys who've been around forever, so you can never count them out. They're just as much of an institution, really, as much as power, really. And then Tri-State. How is Tri-State 3-1? But this is a statement game. This is like a shut up game, really.
Yeah.
Because you miss Jason Richardson, who really
shut us up.
Right. Yeah. Shut me up in particular, because this is a team who really was built around Jason Richardson. Jason Richardson has been playing like an MVP candidate. So you miss him, and you think it's gonna be pretty cut and dry, or this team's about to get exposed by a Three's company team that has been on the uptick. I'm sure a lot of it was losing Pargo as well for them, but nothing. Tri-State looked good. They were a well-coached team, and I don't know if it was what's the assistant coach's name?
Steve Mix.
Steve Mix. There you go. I don't know if it was Steve Mix. Maybe a little bit like Steve Kerr goes out and it's like a Luke Walton situation. There's some get a fresh voice in there, but
sometimes it helps to have that assistant coach in this league, and Dr. J's always had him by his side.
He's always had him by his side, and they've always been good. Tri-State's always been well coached. Credit to them. So, I don't know, man. Tri-State, to me, this is a game where I go, all right. I really don't know what to make of this.
Yeah. They had 3 guys score in double figures. Earl Clark, 17 and 10. Dentmon in his first game, which is a guy that we're surprised is making his debut now, but nonetheless came in and made a statement early, 16 points. especially most of that came in the second half. Tied a single game record with 4 steals in his first game. And Nate Robinson, who 13 points in the first half, ultimately finished with 15 because other guys were going to put in the work. But you needed a great game from Nate to win this one. He hasn't been good in the first 3 games, or not been the same Nate that we've seen in previous years and just over his NBA career. So for him to put up 15 games in a much needed win, but on a team that was missing guys and missing your leading scorer, was really encouraging to see. Mario Chalmers dropped 26 in this one, and the guys after him dropped 6 points, 6 points, 4 points, and 3 points. So it was kind of a one-man show on the other side of things. Definitely we're missing Pargo, but I don't know. Something about Three's Company, you don't count them out yet.
No,
when we look at enemies in Three's Company, we look like, ooh, enemies. Like I would definitely bet on Three's Company. Let's put it that way.
Without a doubt. I mean, enemies I just feel like you haven't really seen any signs of life except for when they played Bivouac, who, we've already said enough about Bivouac, but
we can stop shitting on Bivouac.
Right.
Okay.
I'm not going to shit on Bivouac, but well, we will shit on Bivouac because we haven't even gotten to the game yet. But Three's Company, you've at least seen like a pulse. You've seen them get hot, and you've seen them play it. And who did they beat? Because they're 1-3 right now. Who was the team that
they beat? Killer Threes.
Okay, there you go. They beat Killer Threes. So that was, if they play like they played against Killer Threes, in my opinion, they can beat just about anybody. And if Mario Chalmers is going to play like this on a consistent level with Jeremy Pargo, they need to be like the best guard duo in the league. We said that. And if they play like that, they can be. Yeah. So, it's going to be very interesting to see who's coming down the stretch. That's another team I'm concerned about. You're starting out 1-3 while all these other teams are 3-1. So it's going to take, a very impressive second half of the season. But hey, who knows? Could happen.
Definitely could. Tri-State is going to, we already talked about, get to play Power, and they're also going to take on Ball Hogs. So a couple of statement games for them. And for Three's Company, they got to face a Ghost Ballers team that's 3-1, and then they get Bivouac. So if they can get through Ghost Ballers, you feel pretty good.
Yeah.
Again, no offense to Bivouac. Good to see David Hawkins back, though. That's exciting. Hopefully get to see him, and we'll see who Tri-State ends up adding if they don't get Richardson and Sanders back. Okay. Final 2 games of the day featured our 2 winless teams, Trilogy and Aliens. Won't spend too much time on this one, just like the enemies and triplets game. Trilogy took care of business, 50-32 win over Aliens. Aliens was pretty scrappy throughout the day, but Jared Jack, a hot first half at 21 points, or finished with 21 points. Didn't even really play most of the second half. Isaiah Briscoe and Amir Johnson, they did what they did, 12 points, 10 points for Amir Johnson, 12 points for Briscoe. It was kind of it just seemed like Trilogy wasn't trying their hardest. I mean, don't get me wrong, Aliens kept it close within the first half, but I think the game changer was late in the first half. It was like 24-17. Rick Mahorn gets a technical foul, ends up being 26-17, and I feel like momentum just shifted ultimately toward Trilogy. At this point, I feel like if we're going to shit on Bivouac, we don't shit on Aliens enough.
Yeah.
And it's not really like we shit on it. It's more, we're more at this point where, we hate to say it like this, but it's kind of I told you so from both of us, but we kind of expected this. If they were kind of running the same team back, but
which is almost worse. Because Bivouac, it's almost like a disappointment type thing.
Yeah.
Aliens were like, oh, they're winless? Yeah.
Yeah, that one hurts. That's ouch. On the flip side, you're like, man, if Trilogy was just a little bit more efficient in that triplets game, they really could have knocked them off. But Trilogy, I think, cemented themselves, despite playing a winless team, cemented themselves as the second best team in this league right now.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
I'd say it's Ghost Ballers in the moment.
You think Ghost Ballers is the second best team?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say that. If they didn't cement themselves, maybe I understand that. But I think
they didn't. But they just cemented themselves, as I said.
No, I'm saying I think they cemented themselves. But if you want to make the argument that they didn't cement themselves, fine. I still think they're the second best team
because they cemented themselves.
Okay, now it's just getting confusing, and I'm just lost at this point. But no, Ghost Ballers I think is a fair assessment at the second best.
At Trilogy's best, I think they are the second best team in this league. But there's been a little bit of a fluctuation, I feel like.
Within Trilogy? Just like
Trilogy.
the games? Okay.
and it's not necessarily that they've played bad, but like the way they played against triplets was kind of like, I could kind of see, you make an argument why they aren't the second best team in the league. And then, like you said, like I just feel like they were kind of like playing with their food a little bit with aliens.
Yeah.
So I got to give props to then, the team that's right on their heels, or who has the same record as them as Ghost Ballers, who, rose to the occasion and did not, took care of ball hogs. Like
Fair.
No messing around, just took care of it.
The way I look at it though is Trilogy's one loss is to triplets and Ghost Ballers is to Tri-State. And I know that there were some circumstances where Ghost Ballers' best player gets ejected.
I understand. Yeah, no, for sure. I get that. I do.
But fair enough. So ultimately, we'll kind of see. Aliens at this point, you're just hoping to get one on the board, I think. And at 0-4, you're kind of put yourself in a tough position, unfortunately. Trilogy, they get ball hogs and they get Ghost Ballers. So a chance to really cement themselves if they didn't do it. If you want to question what I'm doing, chance to really cement themselves. Okay, final game of the day was Three-Headed Monsters and Bivouac. And I gotta be honest, I was pretty shocked to see the Bivouac squad that was rolling out. I didn't know that they were gonna, we knew they were gonna be without Josh Smith after last week's injury. I didn't know they were gonna be without Will Bynum. I also didn't know they were gonna be out with Jermaine Taylor, who I feel bad for because I'm like, man, this guy, I feel like he never gets the opportunity to prove himself without something going wrong, like one game after. He was out due to COVID protocols. I'm not sure why Will Bynum was out. I don't know if that was the same thing or not, but ultimately they come into the game. We knew they were adding Mikal Gladness. They also added Corey Jefferson, who we mentioned at the top of the show, was only rocking a number and not a jersey on the last name. They also added, I apologize. I'm blanking at the moment, but they also added
Quincy Miller.
Nope, Quincy Miller was last week they added, right? Oh, I guess it was just Corey Jefferson, right? Oh, because they ran a 4-man rotation. No doubt.
Yes.
Okay, so they added Corey Jefferson and Mikal Gladness, but Corey Jefferson was the late addition. This was interesting because they got Three-Headed Monsters, a team that we thought was going to be kind of middle of the pack, but they're now 3-1 here. But Three-Headed Monsters definitely didn't look like they were on their, like this was their best game. Now, unfortunately for Bivouac, I feel like all the bigs that they added all had to go against Reggie Evidence in the first game. It's like, welcome to the league. You get the strongest dude ever who recorded 20 points and 17 rebounds and was a big reason why they won 51-48. But are you shocked that this was Bivouac's best game? And what do we make of Three-Headed Monsters now at 3-1?
Well, you put it to me perfectly when you were like they were looking like the replacements out there, and that's like one of like my favorite movies. I'm like, you're 100% like that. You're 100%. That's what it looks like. They just didn't have anyone like puke in like the middle of the game.
Right.
But no, listen,
this was nuts.
This was nuts. And, I feel like it was like, especially the way it ended, where it's like a bunch of loose balls and tip-ins, and then Rashard Lewis just like puts it in, and he's like, you can see he's like, fuck, like, you know what I mean? Like, the game's over, like, it's over.
Skate.
I don't know, I don't know. This to me just seems like one of those just like games. I don't know if it's necessarily an indictment on Three-Headed Monsters, just because like you came in, bunch of dudes who have never played together. Maybe a little bit of
you didn't really know what to expect. Maybe
you didn't know what to expect. So I don't know. I think I'd have a lot more to say if they lost. But they got the win, which is the most important thing. And it'll be interesting to see what Bivouac does out of here. It's certainly a building block for a team that has no wins halfway through the season. Now I wouldn't be surprised if they can get a win somewhere.
Yeah. And I want to say this is probably, I don't know if it was like Kevin Murphy's worst game, but I feel like he definitely didn't take on as much as the load as we're used to seeing. Like they definitely were feeding Reggie Evans a lot more, and Rashard Lewis was getting his own. So I mean, maybe that had something to do with it. You're kind of testing the waters a little bit about, can we work with this, or should we go to Reggie more? What's kind of the game plan around it? But on the flip side, Alonzo G had his best game. This is the reason they drafted him in the first round, 17 points and 8 rebounds. And Quincy Miller looks like a guy who should have been drafted. He looked really good. Finished with 19 points. And, like you said, I think that Bivouac can definitely find a win somewhere within the season. It might be like last year, they were the team that got upset and didn't make the playoffs. Maybe they do the same thing to another team. They did just add Bobby Brown. So now they have a guard, which I feel like they were missing last week. it felt like it was just all wings and four words out there for Bivouac. And
yeah, that's just a mess.
It was an interesting game, but Three-Headed Monster is now 3-1, and Bivouac is now 0-4. And that's going to do it for our recap of week 4. Right, today we're joined by UW alum and Tri-State's newest member, also known as the one-legged bandit, Justin Dentmon. Appreciate you taking the time, coming off a big debut. How's everything going for you?
Everything is going pretty smooth, man. I'm kind of still on cloud 9. I'm happy I got that call. And once I got it, I was just excited. Didn't want to tell my mama right away, but I had it.
I got to ask you because we've talked kind of extensively just about hopefully you getting that opportunity. Will and I were pretty high on you coming out of the combine. Thought that you would be honestly an early draft pick, especially Will. He thought you were going to go top 3. But the first thing I want to ask you, because you talked about your mom, and I was looking at your Instagram story the day before the game. Was that her kind of dancing and getting ready for the game? And how did she feel?
That was
I'm
her.
Sure you told her a lot about it.
She's super excited about the whole process, man. Anything that has anything to do with me, she's excited about. She's my biggest supporter. And anytime she get in front of the camera, she wants to show that that's my son and all this other stuff. So it was a pretty dope experience. I tried to save it, surprise her till when I got downtown, but I couldn't hold it anymore. I was making her this kind of shirt. She wanted a shirt made, and I couldn't make it the way she wanted it, so we just went with the basic shirt.
Man, that's dope. That's super exciting to have your biggest supporter by you as well. And to be honest, for me personally, I don't know about Will. We were pretty, we did watch the TBT a lot when it first came back in the bubble in 2019, or in 2020, excuse me. Talk about the Big 3 so much during the 2019 season, but been kind of following you since we saw you in TBT, because for, a lot of us, that was the first time we got to watch organized professional sports again with everything that went on. And one of the first games I watched was you playing for Minamaki, dropping 32, hitting some ridiculous shots, like some tough shots.
Hey, forget that.
Got to ask first off, how did the opportunity for the Big 3 come about? And you're kind of in an interesting position because, we see TBT loyalty and Big 3 loyalty in a sense, but you're one of the few guys to do both. So how did the opportunity come about, and why were you excited for it?
It actually came about, Nate Robinson, me and him just been staying in contact. We play the game a lot, play NBA 2K a lot, and we talk a lot. So he was actually shocked because they thought that Power was going to take me, and they didn't. So, they already had who they had in mind. They was going to pick, so it's kind of tough for them to pick me. But the opportunity presented itself when we got put out of the TBT. We got put out in the 3rd round. And he kind of contacted me Thursday and was like, hey, how's TBT going? Y'all still in it? I was like, no, we got put out. He was like, really? Are you available? I was like, yeah, I'm available. He was like, man, we need you. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. As soon as he said that, I was like, yeah, it's about time. Yeah. So I was like, already like, okay, let me not get too excited, And then he called back and he was like, yo, what's your jersey size? I was like, oh, yeah, I'm in there. I'm about to make this opportunity. And I'm like, I'm gonna just be solid. Don't do too much in my first game. I just want to have a good showing, show some of the teams that they missed out on a good pick. And then the crazy thing, after the game, a lot of the captains coming up to me was like, man, what are you doing next weekend? You ready to go? I'm like, yeah, it might be. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, it might be. So it was pretty good.
Let me ask this first of all: is Nate Robinson good at 2K?
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Okay.
He's pretty good. Yeah, he's pretty good. We go on a lot of win streaks. It's crazy because he got the logo above his head, and so everybody follows around the park.
Gotcha.
And so we get games like that. So we play. Some people be like, they call them the cheesy players that be doing all this glitchy moves. We be beating those though, Yeah. And it's like we got to put our game on offline because people be sending us weird messages and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, he's pretty solid. He's pretty solid.
Nice. Well, listen. So back to the draft. I really did think that Power was going to take you 3rd. And, I feel like I would almost take it as a compliment that, we all thought you were going 3rd and they ended up picking a guy who won bronze at the Olympics. Right. So, that's how I would spin it, but, I guess, for Tri-State, what were your initial impressions, going from the TBT to the Big 3? Was there a little bit of like a culture shock there just from, how different the games are?
No, it actually, I don't know. I was, you always a new team, new organization, you always got a little nervousness going on, not knowing what to expect. So I was just kind of, following Nate, following Tony, kind of following their lead. And they was just like, JD, this is not like TBT. He's like, go out there and do what you do. So nobody's gonna get mad at the shots you take. He said, just play your game. And I'm like, all right, that's easy. I can do that. You gotta tell me twice. So once I got out there, I missed the first shot. I was like, okay, that first shot miss is gone. I'm okay now. And then all of the in-game jitters just went out the door. And they just kept yelling at me, stay aggressive, stay aggressive. And I mean, it felt good. I think that this is way much easier on my body than full court. After the game, I ain't felt no pains, no nothing. I'm just like, I can do this. And this is perfect for me. So I'm just, waiting my opportunity. That's why I was doing patiently waiting when they got that call. I'm like, it's about time now. It's time to show what I can do.
Yeah, well, the offensive end, obviously, we know what you're capable of, but the defensive end, you go in there and your first game in the Big Three, you tie the record for the most steals in a game. Was that something that you were, had an emphasis on, or was that something you were expecting?
No, so we knew that they were going to try to post. He was like, okay, I said, I'm strong enough. I can take the first couple bumps. So I was like, I'm about to start pulling the chair. Pull the chair. If he fall, good. If he spin, we got Clark going to be there to block the shot. So I'm like, we had a strategy. And sometimes Nate came in and, got a hand on a few of them. But we had a little strategy because we knew they were going to post us up. It's good to go small ball because they got to adjust to us. On offense, they got to come out and guard us on the wing. So it ain't just, overpowered post thing. It's a guard thing, too.
Yeah, not to reflect too much on the past because we obviously know what you did in your debut, but you dropped 16 points and you said you had some conversations with other captains who were like, what are you doing this week? But, to me, it just seemed like, and for those of our listeners that don't know this, you were playing alongside Isaiah Austin in the draft combine and your team, it seemed like, was doing really well. Were you kind of surprised that you were just now having those conversations with some of those captains, after the game?
Yeah, it was kind of surprising. And the crazy thing, they put me, Isaiah Austin on like a back court. Like everybody was on the main court, we was on the back. We actually won 6 out of 7 games. We beat a team. They put 20 minutes on the clock. We're supposed to go to 30. We beat a team in like 10 minutes or less. We was like sweeping through 10 because me, Isaiah Austin, and the pick and roll was dangerous. So it was kind of shocking, but I kind of figured that you guys already knew who they really wanted. So I was just like, man, I just got to make them want me. So I'm gonna just play and just try to show, what I can do. And if they don't know me, they'll know me now. Man,
sounds like that's exactly what happened.
Really got to know me.
Yeah. I'm sure Isaiah knew what you could do. You dropped 32 on that man's team at the TBT last year.
They almost beat us. That's the crazy thing. They were supposed to beat us, but he's a good player, man. Great guy. Yeah. I think on their team too, they need some more offensive power too. I think they struggling on offense a lot.
Well, one thing too that seemed, pretty noticeable. You did seem, you talked about how, kind of making any kind of adjustment or anything, but you did seem pretty comfortable. Obviously, you have a lot of guys that are also from the University of Washington, so I don't know how the fraternity or how much you guys keep up with each other, just being from the same alum. But also too, it just felt like, you guys didn't have Dr. J as head coach, but Will and I were talking about this. He's always had Steve Mix as his assistant coach, and you guys just felt like you were moving the ball better. You guys were out hustling, out rebounding. A bigger team. You talked about how they were posting you a lot. How did Coach Mix do just within that game, and did he emphasize any points just in terms of ball movement or anything like that?
He wanted to do a 1-2. He wanted to do like a zone because he was like, man, they gonna post us. He was kind of like really emphasized on they was gonna post us. And we was like, man, we pretty scrappy. We got 3 Washington guards. We pretty much know how to play off each other. So we just took it. If the guy was above the block, we took the couple bumps. If he was below the block, we just ran and tried to double sometimes. And then we'd just go out and contest the jumper because sometimes guys can't shoot that ball. It's a new ball. So guys is kind of struggling with that ball. So we just took our chances on that. And then I was like, man, I'm gonna just pull the shit. Don't help me. I'm gonna just pull the shit. If he get past me, then whatever. But he's a good guy though. He's a really good guy. It's another guy. He saw me come in. He was like, "Are you another small Washington guard?" I was like, "Yeah."
That is us. Did you have a chance to talk to Dr. J before the game, or have you had a chance to talk to him now?
No, I haven't had a chance to talk to him at all. Yeah.
Okay.
I met him a few times at the combine. He watched a few of the games at the combine. Never had an actual conversation with him about expectations or what to look for moving forward. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure I feel like we talk about him so much as being a head coach or being a guy that we idolize and look up to, or a lot of people do. So it's just an interesting dynamic when you turn around and he's like the coach, but you haven't had that experience yet. I mean, let's look ahead to this weekend because it's kind of the first time that we've ever had 2 games in 3 days, which I don't think it's going to be a huge adjustment. Will and I talked about it's just, half court playing to 50. So it's a little bit easier on your body, but you guys are now 3-1. So you come into a good situation already. And then you help them, now in a good spot where you guys are, I think there's 3 other teams that are 3-1, but what's kind of the game plan for you guys going into, the game on Thursday and just ultimately for the weekend?
I really don't know. Like, the only person I've really been talking back and forth with Tone Roden on, what's going on this weekend, if we're going to be with the guys this weekend, or what's the situation is. I'm still waiting right now, so I'm not sure, but I'm guessing the expectation is the same as the other one. You got Power, you got Royce, that's a big threat in the post. He don't shoot no jumper, so he's going to for sure post us. But we got an advantage. They still got to adjust to us because we small. We got guards that can move, shoot, and we got guards that can drive. So it's going to be a hard adjustment. Them and the enemy, it's going to be hard to adjust to us more than us adjusting them because they don't think post. And while they posting, the clock going to be ticking. And we can adjust, we can trap, we can switch off. There's a lot of things we can do on defense, and there's a lot of things they going to have to think about on defense on their end before it's us.
How is it sort of, you're coming into a team that obviously, that was a big game for Tri-State. Nobody really knew what to expect of this team. And then you see, it really has been like the Jason Richardson show. And then Jason Richardson is out. And then obviously you come in and you do, well and beyond, necessary enough to get the win. But is there any added pressure coming in on a team that, is really at this point in the season having championship expectations?
No, I don't. No, I think, once they told me to just come in and do what you do, don't change nothing you do, then I was like, okay, I'm good. I think I add a lot of versatility. I can shoot, I can drive, and then on defense, I can hold my own in the post. I can guard the ball. So it's all about, when to put me in, when not to put me in. Jason Rich, we already know when somebody's going, we're just going to let them go. And I've seen he's been going. He's an MVP candidate. He's been doing his thing. So, and he can guard the post. He's big enough to guard the post. So it ain't like we're going real small. I think you add more firepower with me when you bring me back, when you bring me in. And a lot of guys, again, don't really know fully about me. They do, but they don't. So I can be like this little wild card that comes in and, get a couple here and there buckets, steals, and everything. So it all depends about the team, adjustments, who we play, and all that. I think this team can go far. It's just all about the next game mentality. Don't look too far ahead. Just look at that next game, win that next game, then look to the next one.
Are there any guys out there, and like you said, the future isn't 100% certain with you, but I agree. I think any team would be better off having you than not. But are there any guys out there, you look at these rosters, look at these teams, any guys you're like, oh, I hope I get to play against him at some point in the season? Power, yeah.
Power, for sure. I want to play Power. That's right there. This is what I want to play. I want to play them, man, just because, like I said, I was expecting to get drafted, but I was just like sitting there. When I didn't, I was just like, I had to go for a walk. I had to cool off. Whew. But I'm looking for that game more than anything. And then, I also playing against Isaiah. I was looking forward to playing against Pargo in Threes and Company, but he didn't show up. So that was a game I'm looking forward to playing against. I think, did they already play Joe Johnson on the team?
I don't think they did.
I'm looking forward to that matchup with Pargo, also the other Pargo. So there's a lot of them, but I just, I'm just excited about even getting the call. So, whatever games I can make it to, I'm excited. I'm just going to give them all and just play my game, man.
But Power's the team. When you get matched up,
no doubt,
when you're at the top of the key and then Dusan rotates to guard you, that's the guy they picked instead of you. He's going to be a little something extra.
Better move his feet quick. He better beat me to the spot. I might sidestep, shoot the one leg on him.
Oh my God, that was the other question I wanted to ask. Yeah, when are we going to see the one leg?
I feel like we saw a glimpse of it. Yeah, I was going to say we saw a glimpse of it.
Okay,
yeah, I missed it. I usually don't shoot it off
a mid-range.
Three. Okay. I did it. My first make was off my one leg.
Okay, then there we go.
Let me ask you, because I know that you've been waiting on the call. We can obviously hear the excitement in your voice about now playing in the league. Why were you excited or so excited to play in the Big Three? Because you played around the world and you played the TBT, but what made the Big Three such an exciting thing to be a part of?
As you look at, as I look back and I look at my career, it's like, it's winding down, and why wouldn't I want to be a part of something that's growing that I can, I wouldn't have to put too much stress on my body. I don't have to go overseas anymore or do anything like that. So I start looking at the end of my career. It's like, what's next? I got I got things that's moving as far as investments, but I still love the game. And the Big Three would allow me to play longer than expected. And it's, like I said, it's an amazing league. A lot of players that are done or still playing I feel like I'm just as good, not better than some of them. I think that, it would be good to be a part of. So I was just excited because, watching it throughout the years, it's like, man, I would love to be on one of them teams and playing in one of those games, and when I finally got the chance, we were like, oh, it's here. I spoke it into existence, the power of the tongue, boy, speak it in existence. So I'm here now, and I just hope that I get to stick. If I get to stick, then, man, no telling what this team or whatever team I'm going to be on can do.
I think you made a convincing case for sure. Let me just ask you about the experience as a whole, because we've talked to a few guys who enjoy the Big Three for different reasons, right? Like you said, you don't have to go overseas, get to play in front of their kids for the first time, get to be with the guys for a weekend. What did you think about your first Big Three experience just overall and being in Dallas with all the guys?
It was an amazing experience, especially being here, being where I've lived here. My family got to come out and see me play and everything. So it was really big. And then got to see a lot of the guys that, I don't really get to talk too much. We all, gathered in the lobby. We all talked and mingled and everything. It was a great experience. And like I said, and once the game was over, I was like, man, I can see myself doing this for a while. I just got to, stay composed and just take it game by game. But I like it overall, everything. Very organized league, professional. They carried everything. They did everything by the book. Everything was great. So no complaints on my end. I think it's amazing.
And I got to ask you this because, not only did you make your debut and have an outstanding game, but you also got the experience of bringing the fire. What was that? What was that like? I know. Listen,
it kind of got thrown me. It threw me off because I already knew what I was about to do. I'm about to go to the side. I'm about to do my right. I'm about to do my right leg shot. I'm about to do my side step. Mario Chalmers is on the sideline. He about to do 2 dribbles and he going side step. I'm like, why would you tell him? That's still my whole. I can't do it now.
It's one-on-one, okay, man. Like you ain't in this now. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I went one way and then I got career separation. I missed. But it was interesting. They was like, you only got 2 dribbles. I'm like, really?
Oh, is that what it is? Okay, I know you have like 2 seconds, right? Yeah, I didn't know that either.
He's like, you only get 2 dribbles. I was like, oh snap! I can't really do nothing now. But I really just on 2 dribble sidestep here. Yeah, I'm waiting on it. It's because Mario Chalmers told you. That's why.
You gotta be like LeBron yelling at him on the sideline.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Or you at least understood with LeBron.
It's different though. It's very different. Like when somebody challenges a foul, yeah, I get to get a one-on-one. And it's very, I already expected it being physical. So that didn't surprise me. So I was prepared for that because at the combine, they ain't calling nothing.
And Anthony, tell me if I'm wrong, man, but like, I don't know, maybe it's just because like we were talking about him a lot and like, everything coming up in Milwaukee, but like Justin, to me, like your story reminds me, or not your story, but like your come up reminds me a lot of like a guy who we're seeing like in the MVP conversation right now, Mike Taylor, which is a guy that, came in, was like a relatively unknown besides like a lot of the local guys that knew him, but got his opportunity and really shined in his role and then, worked his way up to co-captain and now he's in MVP talks. I just feel like, I don't know, that's like, maybe I'm being overly hopeful, but that's really, Justin, like what I see for you if, granted the right team comes along and gives you the right opportunity.
Man, I think so too, man. He's a great player too. I've been watching him too. Very energetic and he can score that. He can shoot. Very, very good player. So his story, it can be similar. I can kind of go down that path or kind of go down a different path. Like it's all about the right situation, right fit. I've been in so many leagues and it's just all about the right fit, right timing. And if that happens, I'm more than willing to take on that road. I just, like I said, I love to play the game. I love to compete. And I think this is just a new challenge, in my years of basketball that I'm willing to take on.
You talked a little bit about having more homegrown guys, and I think we've seen a few few guys in this league that have made more of a statement or made their name well known within the big three. Is that something that you would be excited about if more people knew about your name and prominence because you were such a great player in the big three? Like, is that something you wear on, your sleeve proudly?
Me, everywhere I go, every league I go to, I pride myself on earning respect. I don't want people to give it to me. I want to earn it. So even if I have to go and just like when I first came to Dallas, I went to all the pro leagues, the pickup games, all the money tournaments. I had to get my respect here. Then I was like, once I got my respect, I was like, okay, I wasn't relaxed, but now people know who I am. They know not to, kind of play me like I'm not that good. So that's why I'm gonna try to take on with the big three. Like, I know a lot of guys don't really know me, but I'm gonna earn their respect once they play against me, and once I get the respect, then it's gonna be something else. But first I gotta get the respect from people. I gotta get the respect. Once they get the respect, it's on the pop.
Fair enough. Well, like we've said multiple times, you definitely made a good showing of that in your first game. Two separate questions outside of the big three, and then we'll wrap it up here. First off, I think it's dope that you're from the University of Washington. We see a lot of guys that take a lot of pride in being a Husky, but I think it's dope that you get to play with Brandon Roy. Just want to know, your relationship with Brandon and ultimately anything you learned from him, throughout your playing days and maybe even up to now.
I had to learn to be patient with Brandon Roy because, coming out of high school, I was a scorer. And I did everything for my high school. So when I got to college, I had to learn to take a back seat because it was players better than me. So he really helped me. He molded me on that, being a point guard and first, get my team involved first and then do what I can do after that, and he made me look good. He caught all my passes, even if there was bad passes, you know what I mean? So, after he went to the pro, he came back and, kind of mentored, trying to tell me how it would be and when I'm a pro and how things are, because it's different. But now college athletes are now pros. Now they're getting paid now.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
He kind of came back, mentored. He still came back and played in the pro am. So it was here and there. Our relationship, kind of lingered. He's a high school coach now. Numbers have changed. We here and there on Facebook and Instagram, but he definitely was a big inspiration on my upbringing in Washington.
That's dope. And the second one, we talked about you being the one-legged bandit, taking the one-legged shot a lot, creator of the one-leg sidestep. How did that come about? And, when did you decide I'm going to master this thing and it's going to be mine?
Man, I've been doing that since college. It just started getting filmed it's called the Bay Area Pro Am. I think San Francisco Pro Am. It was like the shift team. That's when it first blew up. I was going against Scott Machado, and I hit like 3 in a row. And then my third one was my sidestep. Kind of blew up. So I really started doing that because I'm playing when I play one-on-one against tall guys, 6'7" guards. So I got to get my shot off. If I can't get my shot off, then it's like I'm just out here just playing defense on these guys. So I started doing it more and more on bigger guys. And then it just became something everybody's like, oh, you doing it one leg. And people misunderstand it. I don't do it all. I do it same leg, same hand. So I'm jumping off my right foot, shooting with my right hand. Most people think I'm jumping off my left foot and shooting like a runner off. Like, no, that's not. It's harder. That's easier to block. If I go off my left foot, most guys right-handed, they're going to block it. But if I go off my right foot, right hand, I'm moving out the way of the hand so I can see the basketball. So it's a little, people really don't know the difference between the two. So sometimes I have to tell them, I'm like, man, it's totally different, man, because I get a lot of tags. A lot of tags from every time somebody do a 1-foot shot. It's like, Justin, I'm like,
man, that's cool. That's cool though. That in itself, I feel like is a respect. And honestly, after watching you over the past few years, I feel like you're more comfortable shooting off one leg sometimes.
Amazing, because it's a quicker shot, and people they like, oh, he gonna make that, and then turn around. Oh, okay, I gotta go.
For sure, man. The merch is dope that you just came out with. I really like the shorts, but I couldn't find them the other day. But for those of people,
I just put them on now, man.
Okay.
I'm actually making them. I'm the manufacturer. I make them. I ship them. I do everything out of my living room. Like
there we go.
Behind the cameras, all over there.
The grind.
Look, this is my little merch is there. Right
Okay,
here.
okay.
Sitting right there.
For people that beforehand couldn't find it like me, where could they find some stuff like that, or where can they find
just Justin Dentmon .shop. I ain't really got a name, but just me, my stuff. So it's Justin Dentmon .shop. You can go in there and find some stuff.
Cool.
I got like reflector balls on there and everything, like balls that light up when you put your camera on it and everything.
That's dope.
That's sick.
Yeah, no, I was looking at the store a little bit yesterday because I was looking for the shorts, like I said, with the
No, I just put them out today because I posted last night. I'm like, so many people hit me. I was like, yeah, I got to get those. I'm like, because I wasn't gonna make no shorts. I didn't know how I want them.
Oh, okay.
They're around. Just throw this on there, and I'm like, oh, these look actually nice. So,
I was like, man, they got to be exclusive or something because you were talking about how you were shipping them out, and I was like, I don't see them on there.
Yeah,
It must be only for the boys or
people
something.
hit me. I shipped out like 5 of them this morning. It was like, yeah, I need it.
There we go. Business is booming.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man, it's just cool, man.
It's been a great week.
Most of it goes to my foundation. I take half of it, put it towards my foundation. It's called the JDD Foundation. Justin dishing dimes on the court. I dish them off the court. You know, a little something I do.
There we go. There we go.
Hey, well, best of luck the rest of the Big 3 season. At this point, it feels like you got to be a mainstay for the rest of the year. Hopefully, continue to be the tri-state. But if not, if you're with another team, hopefully we get to see you, rock the rest of the season and go to the Bahamas. But appreciate you taking the time and big supporters on the show here. So,
man, thank y'all, man. Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it. I'm gonna follow you all the time. Every time y'all see something, pull up, watch, like.
Hey, appreciate that. Hey, I'm gonna come through on the store since you put them up on the shorts on the store. So.
Okay, man. Thanks, man. Go get you a pair, man. Get you a pair.
Yes, sir. For you and the foundation, obviously, but yeah,
of course, for the charity,
for the culture,
oh,
yeah,
for sure.
Exactly.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Charity and the culture,
without a doubt.
Appreciate it again. Best of luck.
You too, man. Y'all take care.
That was our interview with Tri-State's Justin Dentmon. We really appreciate him taking the time to come on after his strong debut. I think he really made a name for himself with his first game with Tri-State, dropping 16 points and 4 steals. Before we wrap up today's show, we're going to get into our midseason awards because we are halfway through the season, 8-game season, 4 games in, and got some big games coming up. And I think this is where we're going to start seeing some people run away with whatever award they are in contention for. So let's start. I guess we should kind of save the best for last, the MVP. I think at this point, we kind of know who's at least in the conversation. Let's start with our defensive player of the year, Will. Who would you have as your defensive player of the year right now if the season ended today?
For me, it's Mike Taylor. Second in blocks, second in steals. And I just feel like, for a guard, it's a lot harder to be, second in blocks. Chris Johnson is number 1. Jason Richardson is 3. DeMar Johnson is 4. And then for steals, if you look at this, a couple of ghost ballers on this. There's actually a lot of Tri-State guys on this list. So Tri-State, I guess, is playing the best team defense, but Mike Taylor tied for second in steals. I don't know. I feel like just his on-ball defense is good, and he has the stats to back it up.
Fair. It's funny that you say Mike Taylor because I'm actually going with his teammate, and I'm going with Chris Johnson. That's very impressive. I think he's been impressive through the 4 weeks. I think he was really impressive on both ends in week 1 and week 4. But if there's been consistency, I think it's been on defensive end. And I really like that he's able to switch on to smaller guys and also protect the rim. So I'm going to go with Chris Johnson as my current defensive player of the year. But Mike Taylor, that's a pretty good one as well. Let's move on to our 4th man of the year award. No pun intended there. Who would you have as the best player coming off the bench right now?
I mean, that's a good one, man. This to me is like
kind of a tough one.
This is a tough one because I feel like the lineups and the rosters have changed so much.
I know. Who's been doing it
who's been doing it off the bench week in and week out? I mean, week in off the Elijah Stewart.
I guess if we're gonna compare it to like Nate Robinson's, who started some games but mostly came off the bench, I mean that's valid. I think for me it's got to be Briscoe, Isaiah Briscoe, who's come off the bench every single game.
Oh, has he?
I'm pretty positive that Jared Jack has been the starter every game. And
so if that's the case, then I would say I'm going to stick with Elijah Stewart.
Just to be different, just to be that guy.
To be different, just because but yeah, Isaiah Briscoe is definitely a good one.
I mean,
I'm also a big fan of. I feel like Briscoe also has to be top 3 in minutes though.
Sure.
So like
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of like, bench player to me means, you're number 4 on the team or less in minutes, which that
Fair
to me
enough.
is Elijah Stewart. So yeah, so I'm sticking with my pick.
Okay. I like Elijah Stewart. He's been really good as well. Maybe even more consistent just in terms of how many minutes he's on the floor and the numbers he puts up within that time.
I'm going to change it right now.
Oh, okay. That was so fast.
DJ Watson.
That was so fast. He's played less games. Are you still cool with that?
Yes.
Okay. We're going with CJ Watson. I like that one too, though. He was really good, and we see the kind of impact he has when he is at his best coming off the bench. So CJ Watts for you. I'm going to go with Briscoe. I'm going to stick with him. He's come off the bench every game, and he's been really good for them. Let's go with our coach of the year. Who's been the best coach so far? We've had a lot of really good teams up to this point, so that's going to be kind of tough.
That's a good one. To me, I think I got to give it to George Gervin.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
I think this is a team of guys who, he's used effectively. I really love the rotations that he's had. Besides last game where there wasn't a rotation, but I don't know. I just feel like, I'm almost sort of giving him also a lot of credit for like constructing this team, but I don't know. I just think, Ghost Ball is really, you had no expectations for them. But they are, I said at this podcast, I think they're the second best team in this league, and Giannis kind of came out of nowhere. So for that, I'm going to give it to George Gervin.
Yeah, I'm going to go with another 3-1 team and kind of ride the trilogy train a little bit longer. I'm going to go with Steven Jackson. I've honestly thought he's looked really good. He's done a good job as his first coaching position, transitioning from player to coach. And I think it helps that, he's played in the league for a long time and was one of the best players. I think he's really used a lot of that knowledge from playing in the league and, used it well as a coach. So he constructed this team well, I think, too. He originally drafted Meadow Sandiford Artest, and that didn't work out. Brought in Quintel Woods, and I thought he was a nice addition. So
that was a great pickup for them.
I'm gonna go with Steven Jackson, which that would be pretty interesting if he, won Coach of the Year in his first year coaching,
that would be cool.
Coming over as a player. Let's move on to too hard to guard. There's been a lot of guys that have been tough to guard, but who's been the toughest? We think.
This to me is,
like last year was Bynum. It seemed kind of far and away.
To me, I'm gonna say Barbosa.
Okay.
Because I think obviously, you say Joe Johnson is obviously the best offensive player in this league, but I feel like this award has historically gone to like the most flashy guys, the guys with the most highlights, and that to me has just been Barbosa, just with all the crazy layups that he's been hitting.
Yeah, it's tough because I want to say Joe too. Like I really do. I'm gonna have to go with Jeremy Pargo. I know that he's played in less games, but
oh yeah, that's a good one.
We talk about flashiness and a guy that's been getting it done on the offensive end, and a guy that looked like he was sorely missed for Three's Company. He's been really tough to guard, and he led them to a tough win when they were down. I think I'm gonna have to go with Jeremy Pargo. Also, Janaris looked pretty good too, so that could be in contention, I think, as well. Trash Talker of the Year. Are we pretty unanimous? Let's count down on 3 and see if we say the same name. Okay.
Sure.
1, 2, 3.
Earl Clark.
Royce White. Oh,
I'm kidding. It's Royce White.
I feel like I'm just such a gullible person, and you just know.
I just thought of a random name, but yeah, it's Royce White. I mean, oh my God.
Unanimously, the people's champ here.
Unanimous. I'm intimidated. He's not even talking trash to me. He's in my head.
You're not even in the same building as him, and he's
exactly, and he's in my head. So
he's obviously in Joe's. He's still in Joe's head.
Still in Joe's head.
All right, Newcomer of the Year.
Joe sits hot yoga, sitting at 4-0.
Yeah, he sits in Zen, but he's still in his head. Whatever. Okay, Newcomer of the Year. Give me 3, like top to bottom, or I guess 1 to 3 is a better way to put it.
I would say 3 to 1.
Or unofficial official award.
I would say Briscoe at 3.
Okay.
I would say number 2. That's a tough one. Let me look at these names really quick. Number 2, I'm going to say Kevin Murphy.
Okay. Good one.
And number 1, I'm going to say Barbosa.
Yeah, I have a pretty similar list to you as well. I mean, 1 for me is easily Barbosa. 2 is still going to be Murphy. The third one's kind of tough because I did have Isaiah Austin. I might go with Elijah Stewart, to be honest. He's been really good.
Yeah.
Let me look at the teams before I make that decision real quickly. I mean, Briscoe's been really good, and I had Briscoe as my fourth man. I'm gonna go with Elijah Stewart though as my third. He's been really impressive, and one thing that's impressed me, that dude's got bounce, like crazy bounce.
Oh yeah.
Did not know that. They talk about him being like the all-time leading three-point shooter at USC, but
He's an athlete.
underrated bounce for sure. Okay, MVP race. Give it to me. Top three.
It's number 1 is Joe Johnson.
This is supposed to be the most exciting, but this one just seems the most obvious to you.
Well, I mean, listen, it's closer than it's ever been.
Yeah.
This is the closest it's been since 2018 when it was David Hawkins and Corey Maggette, in my opinion. But I still think Joe is number 1. Hawk was robbed. But one I think was Joe Johnson. 2 I think is Mike Taylor at this point. And then 3, I keep on bringing up his name, but 3 to me is Barbosa.
Yeah, I thought that's where you were going. Okay, fair enough. Joe Johnson, easily my number 1 as well. And to be honest, I feel like I'm kind of in a similar spot to you. I think Mike Taylor's definitely got to be my number 2.
Yeah.
He's been far and away probably the second most consistent guy in this league. My 3 is tough.
3 is tough. 3 is, there's definitely a lot.
Because I want to say Barbosa. I feel like Murphy's been good enough. I wish Jason Richardson would have played because I feel like maybe he could have squeezed in there.
Yeah. Jason Richardson is definitely, I feel like, to me, in my opinion, if Ball Hogs lose some more games and Tri-State, keeps up, or if any of these 3-1 teams keep up, then, Jason Richardson, Kevin Murphy, I don't know who else the 3-1 teams. Or even like on power too. Like, Royce White is absolutely, or Coutinho is absolutely in that conversation.
Yeah.
This to me, it's a 2-dog race right now, but number 3, I feel like it hasn't really been decided yet.
Yeah, I was going to say Dante Green, but I think I have to go with Leandro Barbosa. I mean, I'm just kind of looking at the stats here. He's second in scoring, leads the league in assists. Ball Hogs is the best they've ever been. I'm going to go with the same list in the MVP race, but this could quickly change up depending on how the second half of the season goes. So that is where our midseason awards stand. Let us know if you guys agree with it or not, if we got it, if we're just way off, or you just don't like what we said, or your boyfriend's mom's grandfather's son is one of these players for whatever reason. You feel like we should be rooting for them. I don't even know if that family tree makes sense or not, but if for whatever reason you have an allegiance with one of these guys and you just think we're wrong on that standpoint, let us know.
If Joe Johnson gets 1 more assist than Barbosa, he is leading in points, rebounds, and assists.
Wow. Is that true?
Yes.
That's wild. And well, I guess
2 more rebounds, I should say.
I guess it helps when you have 23 points and 15 rebounds. I mean, my God, the man's doing it all. And 4 assists, probably the
So that to me, he's the MVP until
yeah. This way he's the MVP. We're just hoping. We're not hoping. We're just going to see if anybody can knock him off. But that's going to conclude today's episode. We appreciate everyone who's tuned in. Remember, guys, games are on Thursday. That's going to be week 5. That's going to be in Milwaukee. And Saturday, that's going to be in Chicago. And that's going to be week 6. We're going to get a full slate of all 6 games. So it's going to be long days, but really going to be a deciding factor on how the rest of the season plays out. We appreciate everyone who's tuned in, whether you're listening on your preferred podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, etc. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio, we appreciate you guys as always, and we will see you next time.